Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a concept that literally flips everything we've been taught about saving money completely on its head. You know, it turns out reaching $100,000 in savings isn't just some nice round number to pat yourself on the back for. It actually activates this hidden financial dynamic that experts quietly call the $100,000 rule. We're going to explore this totally radical premise that this specific number isn't just a random checkpoint. It actually creates a mathematical and mental shift so profound that wealthy folks see it as the true starting line for real wealth. Look, almost everyone out there is completely obsessed with becoming a millionaire, right? It's the ultimate cultural milestone. But honestly, that belief completely misses the point. The idea is that striving only for $1 million is like focusing on the final level of a video game while totally ignoring the boss fight that actually unlocks your hidden abilities. The real fundamental transformation, both mathematically and psychologically, doesn't happen at 7 figures. No, it actually happens right here, at 6 figures. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the true wealth milestone, or crossing the 6-figure threshold.
Section 2, the math of $100,000. This is exactly when money starts producing serious money.
So going from 50 to 100 grand is a massive evolution. And to really get why, we need to break down the math. Let's look at this number, $10,000. Now, if you have 10 grand saved and it's earning, say, an 8% annual return, you're making about $800 a year, which, hey, that's nice, but it's not exactly life-changing, is it? At this level, it's basically like your money is working a part-time job for minimum wage. It's helping out, sure, but it's definitely not paying the rent. But watch what happens when we just add 1 zero. When $100,000 earns that exact same 8% return, you are suddenly generating $8,000 every single year. That's no longer just pocket change. That is real significant income that your money is out there earning while you're fast asleep. Your savings have suddenly transformed into a super reliable full-time employee. And the absolute best part? If you leave it alone, that $8,000 actually grows every single year. Your money is essentially getting raises while you're sitting on the couch binge-watching Netflix. And this brings us to a monumental shift in how compound interest actually feels in your day-to-day life. Before you hit 100K, compound interest is kind of like that friend who promises to help you move but never actually shows up. It's technically present, sure, but practically useless. But after 100K, compound interest steps up big time. It becomes your most reliable employee, it shows up daily, produces undeniable results, and never ever asks for a day off. This is the exact moment compound interest stops being just a theoretical concept that financial advisors love to preach about and becomes a tangible, daily reality for you. Moving on to Section 3, upgrading your financial mindset. We are shifting from Scarcity OS to Abundance OS. So this financial software upgrade forces your survival-trained brain to suddenly process abundance. And the first major psychological shift you'll notice is investment fearlessness. Before you cross this threshold, every single investment decision can feel absolutely terrifying. Why? Because you simply can't afford to lose. Investing $1,000 feels incredibly dangerous because what if you need that cash for rent next month? But once you've got $100,000 saved up, your perspective shifts dramatically. Losing a small amount of money stops being a devastating blow to your survival and really just becomes an irritating inconvenience. So the crucial point is that because of this fearlessness, your actual behavior changes. Before $100,000, investing feels like a game of Russian roulette. But after $100,000, losing $1,000 is kind of like losing one pair of shoes out of a massive closet. It's annoying, but you're fine. You stop panic selling, you can actually hold through market volatility and take calculated risks on growth. You finally gain access to the exact same mental tools that wealthy people use to keep getting wealthier. And that leads right into this really cool behavioral economics concept, wealth identity formation. This is a profound shift. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is just, temporarily not broke, and you actually start thinking and acting like someone who possesses wealth. You stop obsessively checking your bank balance every single day. You start buying based on value rather than just hunting for the lowest price. And you begin thinking in terms of opportunity costs instead of just, can I afford this right now? You recognize that, say, investing in a course that increases your income by 10% is going to pay for itself almost immediately.
All right, Section 4, the social wealth dynamics. Let's talk about the unexpected bugs in your new operating system.
This newfound wealth identity feeds right into the often awkward friend with money dynamics. Suddenly, you might notice people subtly expecting you to cover the dinner check. Family members might start asking you for financial advice out of the blue. Lending money to peers suddenly feels, deeply complicated. And dating? Oh, it gets weird. Your savings make you more secure, but suddenly someone else's poor money management stops being just a quirky personality trait and starts looking like a massive, glaring red flag. At the exact same time, your own relationship with your wallet completely changes through something called strategic spending. You stop buying things impulsively, sure, but you also stop avoiding purchases purely because they have a high price tag attached. Instead, you start viewing purchases as a return on investment. A gym membership isn't just an expense anymore, it's a health investment. A high-quality mattress? That's a sleep investment. You start aggressively cutting your spending on the stuff that doesn't matter while investing heavily and totally guilt-free in what absolutely does.
Section 5. The Time and Money Shift. This is all about expanding your horizons.
Having $100,000 completely rewires your relationship with time itself. Psychologists actually call the mindset of being broke temporal myopia. When you're struggling, you're biologically forced to only focus on immediate short-term needs. Your brain is just screaming, how do I pay this week's bills? Well, savings are the ultimate cure to this myopia. Hitting six figures grants you temporal flexibility. Because your immediate needs are totally secured, you can finally afford patience. You actually begin to plan your life out in years and decades, rather than just surviving day by day. And this brilliantly illustrates a really fascinating paradox. Technically speaking, you have way more to lose now than you ever did before, yet you feel infinitely safer taking smart risks, entirely because your foundation is so rock solid. Perspective finally replaces panic. That solid foundation unlocks some truly massive life possibilities. With a six-figure safety net, your day job transforms from a desperate necessity into just an optional runway. You can safely start a business. You can pivot and change careers without facing total ruin. You can invest heavily in retraining yourself. You might even find yourself negotiating harder at work, speaking up in meetings, simply because you carry this unshakable confidence of knowing that losing your job wouldn't actually ruin your life. It's a profound realization that wealth isn't magic at all. It is literally just math plus time. Before hitting this milestone, you spend money, which basically just makes it disappear. After this milestone, you deploy capital, fully expecting it to return to you and bring some friends along with it. You shift your entire life's motivation. You stop frantically running away from being broke, and you finally have the mental bandwidth to start running towards something deeply meaningful. Which brings us to Section 6, entering a new reality, leaving the predatory system behind. Ultimately, crossing this wealth threshold fundamentally changes your relationship with the broader economic system, and the divide between these two realities is honestly striking. In the predatory economy, you're targeted by payday lenders, you're caught in high-interest traps, and your decisions are driven almost entirely by desperation. But cross over into the wealth economy, suddenly you become practically invisible to those predatory lenders. Instead, traditional banks are actively competing for your attention. You go from dodging high-interest traps to cashing rewarding investment checks. Your financial life is no longer driven by desperation, it's driven by options and confidence. The rules of the game completely change once you aren't broke. It becomes incredibly clear that this $100,000 milestone is the ultimate entry point into a reality where wealth compounds exactly as it was designed to. The wealthy do not win by playing it completely safe. They win because their capital foundation allows them to take incredibly smart, calculated risks, precisely when everyone else is paralyzed by fear and scarcity. Which brings us to the ultimate question for you to consider on your own financial journey. As you approach this vital boss fight of hitting six figures, ask yourself, are you just running from being broke? Or are you deploying your capital, your time, and your mindset to run towards something truly meaningful? Think about how the $100,000 rule might redefine your own trajectory. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep building that foundation.